Karen will be telling you a little bit more about what the students have been doing all week. And I want to say a special thank you to the Traverse Area District Library. They're great supporters of the National Writers Series. And if you go up the stairs after you've been here, they've created a beautiful display of all the authors that we have coming up this season. And if you didn't get it on your way out, there's also a creative writing class for middle school students. So if any of them have a little bit older siblings or they are in that age group, they could take that as well. So I present to you Karen Stein.
Thank you, Marina, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. We had so much fun this week. We talked about why storytelling is amazing, and not only as a performer, but as audience. We listened to examples of stories, both as homework and in the classroom, stories from the Moth, where something really just, such a powerful image, a powerful story was presented, and then we talked about why they were good stories. And then they worked on their own stories, both in groups and in some quiet writing time. And then we had a practice run where everyone got up and presented the story that they plan on telling today. So we all have a sense of what's going to be told. I don't know if your respective children told you what they're going to tell, but this is going to be a lot of fun. The theme is help. I need somebody. It was inspired by one of the stories that we listened to, where this boy had been very sick, and he considered himself a superhero, and his superpowers were within his illness. And then he got better, and then as an adult he had a conversation with his mother, and then he realized that she actually was the superhero in the story because she was taking him to all the doctor appointments and really taking care of him. So that inspired the theme tonight. So actually my story about starting Hearsay kind of involves help. So I told the students part of this story in class. In 2009, I lived in Mexico, and when I was done and ready to come back to the United States, I came here. I'm originally from Chicago, as Marina said, but my mom and her husband have a house in Grand on Duck Lake, and they said I could stay at their house until I figured out where I was going to go next. And so I got here in December 2009, and being from Chicago, I know from snow, but then I moved here. And within a month, I was thinking, what is this place? It just snows and snows and snows. And I wasn't meeting anyone because I didn't really know anyone to introduce me to more people, and Grand is kind of remote, if you think about it. And so by April, I was thinking, something's missing here. I'm ready to move on. I think I'll go back to Chicago. And I called a friend of mine who lives in New York, but her former stepmother has a house in Frankfurt. And I told her my plan, and she said, you know what, Karen? Nobody lives through a Traverse City winter and then leaves just in time for summer. And so I really took that to heart and decided, okay, I'll try. So I made a very good tactical decision. I went to the Film Fest to volunteer, and I went to the manager recruitment meeting and met a venue manager who also was originally from Chicago. And so we met and became fast friends. Actually, that night we went to watch the Blackhawks win their first Stanley Cup in almost 50 years. And I have to tell you, if you think it's lonely to live in a town where you don't know anyone, you should also be a sports fan for a team that everyone hates in that town. You're the only one in the room clapping. So, yeah, I had tried so many different ways to meet people before this. I was looking for a presentation type thing, something like this actually, an outlet, and I found a a coffee house that did something similar to this. And once I finally found them, once I figured out that every single road in this town is 31, and I realized where on 31 this particular place was, and they said, we don't do that anymore. There was not a lot of interest. I decided to look up a singles group. I was like, well, I'm single, maybe I can meet someone. And it turns out that the singles group, the response I got was, everyone paired off and we disbanded, which is the most successful singles group in the history of singles groups. And then I thought, well, you know, there's a synagogue here. I'm not super religious, but maybe I'll make some connections there. And on a very snowy night, I had driven through the snow without GPS to the UU, and when I got there, all the lights were off and there were no other cars in the parking lot because apparently they canceled services that month and didn't put it on their website. So I actually called my mom from the parking lot and I said, can you hear me? Am I dead? Because everything I'm trying to do is not happening. So again, like meeting this friend through Film Fest really helped me a lot. And so through her I made more friends, and then made more friends, and then made more friends, but still I felt something's missing. And then one day it occurred to me, I missed this kind of a thing. I missed a place to practice my performance art. There's a very deep, rich arts community in Traverse City, but I was missing one for the kind of art that I do. And now we are about to start our 4th season of Hearsay, and it's been wonderful, and it's been wonderful to have the opportunity to teach storytelling to the next generation of tellers. So I really appreciate the opportunity from the National Writer Series, and I appreciate the library allowing us to do this here. And we're gonna get going now with our first performer, Elizabeth Thaxton. Part of introduce what I do at my show, which is what we're going to do here, I introduce every performer with a question. So I have a few questions for Elizabeth. 1, what grade are you going to be in next year? 2, what school do you go to? And 3, what's something that you never got to do this summer that you were hoping to do?
I'm going into 6th grade, and I'm going to go to East Middle School, and I wanted to go to more parks this summer.
Great. Well, here's Elizabeth.
So when I was about 1, not yet being able to walk, my dad went on a business trip for a week. My grandparents came to help my mom with me. About the 2nd day that my grandparents were at our house, my grandma walked into the dining room and suddenly her face turned pale. She looked at my mom and my mom asked, what's wrong? Are you okay? My grandma pointed to underneath the table and my mom looked. Underneath the table was a fatly wide snake. This was not a little gardener snake. My mom was ready to book a hotel, and my grandpa was behind my grandma and saw the whole thing. Me, on the other hand, was completely comfortable in my mom's arms, probably drooling all over her shirt. My grandpa left my grandma and mom both in awe. My mom ran into the living room and picked up the phone, called my dad, told him everything, every tiny detail. Meanwhile, my grandpa opened the sunroom door and put his big boy pants on, shooed the snake out with a broom, and my mom was still panicking, only because if there's one snake, there might be more. My mom called many people for inspections to see if there were any more snakes. She could not find anybody who would inspect for snakes. I see why, though. Finally, my mom found someone. He checked for holes in eggs, nests. None were found. My mom came up with an idea about how the snake got there. We had a summer home, and my mom must have forgotten about basket of laundry and set it in the garage. And she probably brought it inside. And Then Snake probably must have crawled out. And if it wasn't for my grandpa, my mom and grandma would have fainted. So that day, my grandpa clearly wore the superhero cape.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, our next performer is Autumn Cram. Okay, so Autumn, let's first. Second. Okay. So, what grade are you going into? What school do you go to? And what do you wish you did this summer that you never got to do?
I'm going into third grade. I'm in Central grade school, and I did everything I wanted to do this summer.
Here's Autumn.
One day, me and my friend had a sleepover. We both were sleeping on a fold-out couch. He was sleeping on a pillow, and I was kind of sleeping on a pillow. We talked all night, and then in the morning, my neck and head started hurting. So while everyone was playing outside, me and my mom laid in my mom's bed. My mom also didn't feel so good, so that's why she was in bed with me. We just watched TV in bed and waited for my dad to get home out of walk and buy Tylenol. Soon my dad got out of walk at 6 o'clock, I think. So he bought the Tylenol and gave me some. And for some reason I felt better right after away. So I went to play on the tablets with story at the end, basically. I didn't really have a long story.
Okay, thank you, Autumn. Okay, our next performer is Charlotte Noller. All right, Charlotte, so what grade are you going into? What school do you go to? And what did you not do this summer that you wish you had?
I'm going into 6th grade. I go to West Middle School, and I did everything I wanted to do. So, yay.
Great.
So me and my sister were we're at home playing with our giant train table with a lot of trains, and I was about 2 and my sister was about 5. And I had pushed my train out into the middle of the table where we couldn't reach since we had tiny little T-Rex arms. And so we tried to get it with our tiny hands, but we couldn't reach. And so we weren't quite smart enough to get up on the table or use a long stick or something. So since it was my train, I came up with that genius idea for my sister to hold me over the table so that I could get the train. And she held me over the table, and right after I had gotten the train, her arms gave out, she tripped over, and she fell on my back. And if you know anything about force and weight, you can probably guess what happened. My chin cracked open, and my sister screamed a lot. So my mom came and took me to the ER, and I didn't cry when we went in the car, but I did cry in the ER room since I was with a bunch of strangers, looking over my head and putting purple glue in my chin. So that day when my mom told me about the story, since I kind of didn't know about my scar until like a year ago, it reminded me that my sister is always there for me and that she loves me, and yay. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, next up is Jamison Schmidt. Is that good? Okay, so what grade are you going into?
I'm going into 4th grade.
Okay. What school?
Eastern.
And what did you not do this summer that you wish you had?
I want to go to Florida.
Okay. All right, here's Jamo.
So, like a year ago, we were planning to go up to Northport, but my mom doesn't like to drive, and my dad doesn't have a driver's license. So we went on the Beta, and our grandma lives up in Northport. So we went on the beta, and our dad told us to get off at the casino on M22. So we got off at the casino, and we got off the beta bus, and we looked around. We didn't see our grandma, so we walked around a little bit. We didn't see our grandma, so we walked around the whole parking lot and didn't see our grandma. So we sat on the curb for about 10 minutes, and we still didn't see our grandma. So me and my brother started thinking about hitchhiking, which you know is a bad idea. So we went to the other side of the road, tried hitchhiking, then someone honked at us, so we stopped. And so about 20 more minutes, I started to get worried. And then the trolley or shuttle, trolley I think it's called, stopped and said, shuttle, stopped and let us use his cell phone. He was very nice because we don't have a cell phone. So we called our dad because we didn't know our grandma's phone number, and our dad called our grandma. Then our grandma picked us up. So next time you probably want to talk to each other and not go just.
Thank you, J-Mo. Okay, next up we have Delaney Cram. What grade are you going into?
6.
At what school?
West.
Okay. And what is something that you did not do this summer that you wish you had?
I did everything that I wanted to do.
Oh my goodness, what a bunch of satisfied people. All right, here's Delaney.
So this or last spring, I don't know what to call it, this year's spring, whatever. When my family went to Universal theme parks, I was a little scared because I am not a brave person and I was scared to go on all of the big rides. So when we went to the superhero section, there was this ride where they would strap you into a chair, shoot you up a giant tower, and drop you. And I definitely didn't want to do that. But then my dad said, because my dad likes to do dangerous and scary things for I don't know why, and he's told me that if I didn't do it, I'd regret it for the rest of my life, and when I was older, I wouldn't be able to have a chance to do it. So, while my little sister waited in the child care area, my parents put me on the ride, and I was crying in line. But then when I got to the top, I could see the whole theme park, and it was really cool, and it was a great experience. And I had so much fun that I did it a second time. It was a lot more fun than just sitting around in the hotel all day. And I'm really thankful that my dad, for some reason, likes to throw me on stuff that I'm really afraid to do.
Thank you, Delaney. Okay, next up is Elijah Fletcher. Fletcher. Elijah, what grade are you going into?
4.
At what school?
I'm going to miss it.
And what's something that you wish you had done this summer that you did not do?
Move up here. Wish I did.
Okay. Excellent. All right, here's Elijah.
So when I was 6, I was at my friend's house, and we were playing with all those musical instruments, and he had this big bongo drum out, and I decided to go up and for some reason get on my dad's shoulders, and when I got up there, I was sitting on his shoulders, and he went like this, and I flew, and at the same time I jumped, and I flew over and hit the part that you hit on the bongo drum, and my head cracked open. So we went into the kitchen, and they got me a washcloth which soon turned red, and we drove to the emergency room to get me some stitches, and they put this big needle to put pain medicine on. It was this long, but the redheads need more pain medicine apparently. So I could feel them putting the stitches in my head. So after that I sat there trying to get waiting for the blood to stop coming out, and then I just sat there eating popsicles, and then we went home, and the next day we were sitting around in the morning, and we needed to go over to the house we were renting, which is right by our friend's house, like right next to it. So we went over, and while he was checking on that, I went over and checked if I did anything to the bongo drum. There was a little dent in it.
Thank you, Elijah. I probably should have warned you that for the faint of heart that this was going to be quite a story. Okay, thank you, Elijah. And next up is Charlotte Griffin. Okay, what grade are you going into?
Fifth.
What school?
Eastern.
Okay, and what's something you didn't do this summer that you wish you had?
Go to Mackinac Island.
Okay, actually, that's on my list too. So, all right, we'll hear Charlotte.
When I was a little kid, my dad was a teacher at a college in Virginia. My mom was a writer, and I was a fac brat. My family lived in faculty housing on campus. We lived in these dingy apartments, and we had like the weirdest bunch of neighbors. There was Gene, who chain smoked all day, so the house was always smoky, and a mean Russian dude broke my mom's flower pots. So we moved out and moved to another house, but the dog that was our neighbor's dog coughed all night, so we moved out of that house, and then we moved to another house, but then my brother was born, and it was too small. So we moved again, and finally, after years, we moved to this brick house with a sunroom. And by then, I had a brother, remember, and he really loved to pull my hair, except for that, life seemed carefree. But one day, one 160-degree day, I was walking home, and it started to get windy. And that night, it got windier. After my mom put me to bed, it picked up more, and I got really creeped out. And so, even though this was pretty much against the rules, I snuck out of bed, and I tiptoed down the hall, dun 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 dun, and then tiptoed down the stairs. Dun 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 dun, and then my mom saw me trying to sneak in. So I just watched VeggieTales with my mom and my brother, and so after that the wind was picking up more, and my dad got home, and they decided to open the window because they thought the breeze would be nice, even though it was more than a breeze by now. So and I said, hey, wait a minute, what if a stick flew into our screen? And then they said, oh, that's not gonna happen, and it happened. So anyway, after that they closed the window, and then the wind really, really, really picked up. And so the house was shaking, actually, and the power blacked out. And a tree fell over onto our sunroom, and my dad was in the doorway of the sunroom. So that was really scary. And then a bunch of people, like campus safety and the police, were out by this fallen tree that that had crushed the power line. So that's why we had no power. So my mom screamed and yelled "Barb," which was the name of one of the people on campus safety. And so everyone moved out of the way so no one was hurt when the tree fell. Like another tree was gonna fall, just to clarify that. So we all got in the pantry, which was really, really tiny. And so we squeezed in there, and I was like, "Mom, is it gonna be okay?" And then she was like, "It's gonna be fine." Well, I think, maybe not. And then, so after what seemed like an hour, my dad got out and started to inspect the damage, and he said that there was a hole in my ceiling, and that something had crushed my bed. And so we packed a little bag for each of us, and we kind of got out of the house. So we got out of the house and drove into town to an inn, and it was closed. Well, actually, it wasn't closed, it was full. So then we went to another inn, it was full, and so we realized that we had nowhere to go. But then my dad's work came to the rescue, so it kind of rescued us. So we stayed for the night in this place called the Sweetbriar Inn, and the next morning we went to inspect the damage of our house, and my dad was right. There was a big hole in the ceiling, there was a crack in my brother's wall, and a branch had crushed my bed, and underneath all the wreckage there was an icon of a guardian angel under my bed. So I thought maybe the guardian angel told me to get up, even though it was pretty naughty to get up in the middle of the night after bedtime and go downstairs to the living room. But it kind of saved my life.
Okay. Thank you, Charlotte. Next up is Will Stanton. What grade?
I'm going into 7th grade
Where?
at Pathfinder.
And what do you wish you had done this summer that you did not do?
I wish I ate more food, a lot more food.
Excellent. I'm with you on that. Okay, here's Will.
So I was doing human nature school, which is at Building 50, where the class was. And so and then my friend was doing this class with me. And so we were at this creek, and the counselor said that we couldn't go in the water because the creek was too deep that day. And so there was this giant willow tree that everyone was climbing on one side, and then my friend and I were like on the other side, so no one else was really there. And so he was just kind of climbing the tree, and I was like, I'm gonna be cool, and I'm gonna kind of scoot across this log. So I started scooting across the log, and I'm not going into the water, so it doesn't matter. And so I got like 2 feet out, and then I just kind of went whoop, and fell backwards and sideways. And so my legs were kind of loosely hanging onto the branch, but I was like, hey. And so, yeah, and I grabbed onto the grass on the shore behind me, and I was just kind of terrified, so I didn't do anything for like 10 seconds, and we're just hanging there until I was like, what? And so I started calling my friend's name. I'm like, help, help, because I didn't really want to plunge headfirst into a relatively shallow creek. And so he was like, what's happening? And so then he like ran over, and he just helped me out, and I was really grateful of his friendship for that day. Thanks.
Thank you, Will. I should also tell you that we got the full story on how he got that hat in class, so we're really excited that you wore it tonight. Okay, next up is Sophia Salt. Okay, what school?
Okay, I'm going into 7th grade, and I go to St. Elizabeth Ann Seton. And the one thing I wanted to do this summer was not get sick, I guess.
Okay, great, thanks. Here's Sophia.
It was this summer, and it was in June. And we were in Spain visiting our family. And we were driving up to Alicante for a festival. My dad and my brother stayed home because my brother was sick. And
we drove up and we were staying with a group of my mom's good friend, Maria. And we went up with my aunt and uncle and their super cute baby. And we were, that whole day, I was kind of feeling a little under the weather. So I was like, oh, it's probably just, I stayed up too late last night, I should probably get some sleep. But that's not what happened that night. We had this big festival that I've been waiting to go to for a really long time. And the festival started, it was all day, but then the real party started at like 2 a.m. And after it was over, when I got home, I fell asleep before I hit my pillow. So when I woke up, I did not feel good at all. I drank some chocolate milk and laid on the couch and watched Say Yes to the Dress for like about 2 hours. And then we were gonna take the tram or the bus or whatever you wanna call it home. But instead, Maria and her group of friends were gonna go to a different city that was like completely like the other way. And instead she drove us to Torrevieja where we were staying. And that day, when I got home, I was feeling a little bit better. And I decided, oh, I think I should probably eat something because I'm really hungry. So I ate some apples and probably shouldn't have done that because it didn't stay in my stomach. And that day, and then I just went to my bed and fell asleep. Then the next day, I remember Winston telling me that the waves were really big and it was super hot. And instead of going to the beach, I had to sit home and watch Disney Channel on the TV instead of going swimming. And we all met up for lunch at the Tintero, this restaurant right at the beach that we really like. And I remember I wasn't allowed to eat anything and I was really mad. My mom stayed home with me that whole day instead of going to the beach. And the next day, I woke up and we were going to Rome to visit our close family friends. And since all of us wanted to be together on the plane, my grandma and my mom said an emergency exit because you have to be 16 to sit in the emergency exits. So my uncle and my aunt and their baby, Winston, my dad, and me wanted to sit together. So if you want to sit together, you just sit at the back of the plane. And I mean the back of the plane. And with an upset stomach and the bouncy edge of the plane, plus there's a little bit of turbulence, probably wasn't a very good idea. Plus, I ate some crackers because I was really hungry. So I know you bet, you know how that went. And when we got to our apartment that night, we watched the Rome-Spain game, and I remember just being really mad because I couldn't eat the kind of pasta I wanted. I had to eat the kind of, but then my mom said I couldn't, but then I was glad I didn't because I didn't want to get sick.
Thank you, Sophia. And now our last performer of the afternoon is Carter Schmidt.
Okay, I am going into 6th grade at East Middle School, and I wish I visited, 7th grade at East Middle School, and I wish I climbed more trees.
Excellent. Here's Carter.
I'm pretty sure I'm part monkey. I love to climb. Even before I was walking, I was climbing. Once as a baby, my mom put me down on the floor and walked into the bathroom, and minutes later, she came out and found I was in the kitchen sink. And to this day, she still has no idea how I got there. And I'll climb whatever I can get my hands on. Trees, ropes, rocks, whatever. And I've never gotten into a pickleball climbing until this summer. We were on a vacation to Europe and to visit my aunt in Germany. And our first stop was in Lillehammer, Norway. And we were walking over a pedestrian bridge over the parking lot. And I thought it'd be, or towards the ski jump, the Olympic ski jump. And I thought it'd be an easy climb. Just jump over the railing and then shimmy my way over the gap. Well, I thought wrong. It was a really damp morning and my feet slipped from under me. And I was just holding on by my hands, and the bar was way too thick to hold on for long. I could feel my fingers slipping, my arms going numb. And so my mom was never really worried about me climbing. But she turned around and noticed that I was in trouble, so she ran over and tried pulling me up, but she wasn't strong enough. So she called over Vigo, my dad's college roommate who we were staying with, and so he ran over and grabbed me just as I was about to let go, and was slipping out of my mom's reach. And he held me up, scraping my knees, but I'd much rather have scraped knees than 2 broken legs. And now I still climb. I love climbing, but I'm a little bit more cautious about what I climb. I don't do anything too high or too dangerous, but I'm sure it'll come back in a couple of years.
Thank you, Carter. Excellent job, everyone, today. That was a lot of fun. Let's give a round of applause. So, one thing I have to say is it is not easy to get up on the microphone and tell a personal story. So if you were inspired by what you saw today and you ever want to tell a story at my show for adults, the full list of themes is available. The flyers are on the chairs. Have a look, see if you have any stories in your life that speak to the themes that you see, and the email address is on the bottom, and let me know. And again, thank you so much to the students. That was a lot of fun. We had a great week.
And I just want to thank Karen again, and also the library, which gave this for free, and also the videographer. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.